Good evening. Welcome to the State of Scottish Football on this fantastic Wednesday night. I am sitting here in Pennycook and it's roasting. I am Graham Duffy and I'm delighted to be joined for the first time in a while by Mr. Robbie Hanratty. Robbie, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, lovely day. Making the best of the last day of summer, I guess.
Oh, definitely. It's good to see you. We do have a lot of things to get through tonight. We will have a look back at the games from yesterday in the Premier Sports Cup. We will also have a look at the games tonight because there is quite a few. But we will start, and you will also see from the bottom there that the transfer deadline day is tomorrow, so I'll have a look at that as well. But firstly, let's start with the news that came out yesterday from Dundee United. And after 10 weeks in charge, Jack Ross was, unfortunately for him, parted ways from Dundee United. Now, obviously, a horrific 9-0 defeat by Celtic didn't help. And the owner, Mark Ogden, had described horrendous results. Robbie, do you think that was coming, or after 10 weeks, is that extremely harsh?
Well, having a 9-0 grubbing and a 7-0 defeat in the space of a couple of weeks, you always got to be clinging on to your job. And in one sense, you've got to look at, it's a bad time to be sacked because 2 days before the transfer window, he's brought in players, he's paid a fee for guys like Dylan Levitt, they've got Stephen Fletcher. I thought Dundee United, or Jamie McGrath as well, they picked Aberdeen too. So on paper, I thought when they beat AZ in the first leg, you think 1-0 win against AZ, they've recruited well. You think, yeah, this is going quite well for Dundee United and Jack Ross. And then the last 3 weeks, it probably is inexcusable. Not many managers was going to come back for that. You could think, oh, was he going to get the next game maybe to redeem himself? But to me, I don't know what you think. Willie Miller and Craig Levein was speaking about this yesterday. Have the players done tools? Because they were saying, Mike Organ's statement, he was saying that there was kind of along the lines of that there was trying to find out information about Jack Ross. So they've obviously went to the players, and in the last game when they got thrashed, there was a lot of senior players on the bench. So I just think there was something said or something done, and the players weren't playing for them, because you could see that 7th, 8th, 9th goal. The marking was so poor that if you're not getting a tune out of your players, probably the best for Jack Ross as well. I'd say, Graham, that he departed because for both parties it just wasn't working.
Yeah, I was on with Glenn on Monday, and I made the point that I thought, especially after maybe the 6th goal especially, that a lot of those United players down tools, and for me, that is unacceptable. Now, they've conceded 23 goals in 4 games, which is absolutely awful. But as I said to Glenn on Monday, if you look a few weeks ago, we were all talking about the fantastic victory they had against Alkmaar at Tannadice, where they were fantastic. And then it's just gone completely downhill from there. I mean, can you put your finger on just why it's gone so wrong for Jack Ross and United?
No, that's why I can only point to, has something been said? You see this down south in Manchester United when they had Mourinho and Pogba apparently was in the dressing room, this and that. And you've got to think, there's obviously only rumour so far, and I can't say with any fact or point fingers at any players. Seen a comment there saying McGrew and Watt on the bench. You don't know what has been said, but it's definitely a team. Dundee United on paper shouldn't be having these defeats and leaking goals in this manner, because it's not like they're a team full of 18-year-olds who are inexperienced. They've got players that's played at the highest level, well, highest in Scotland anyway. So to me, it's just baffling, because I tipped Dundee United. I thought they'd probably finish top 6 and consolidate on from last season's campaign under Tam Kurtz. But honestly, it's just not a good time to be a Dundee United fan. I think they've had record season ticket sales as well this season, so they have that. Then we'll probably speak about it in the transfer section, but losing last season's top scorer, Nicky Clark, it just doesn't seem like a positive time, because if they're taking a wee bit of time to get a replacement in, then whoever comes in has got to be stuck with a squad, because unless they get a replacement manager in the next 24 hours, then whoever the manager comes in, it's not his players, and then they got to struggle. So it's not a good time, really.
Do you know something that infuriates me as well? Whenever you hear, after the manager gets sacked, whenever you hear a player coming out and saying, oh, we let the manager down, it's too late for that. You know, the manager's been sacked. Jack Ross has had a horrendous last few results, but surely those players have got to take a look at themselves and say, we should have done a lot better than that.
Yeah, 100%. you've got to, like, the buck, it's one of the only industries in the world that the manager will get, obviously, he'll get paid for failures, sometimes great payoffs, but they'll often get the blame for what the 11 players on the park are doing. And yeah, obviously, he has to have some sort of blame because he's setting up the team each week. And surely, once you find yourself 4 or 5 down, you try to set up shop. But we all know the quality Celtic have got. And in that sense of players coming out in the media, it just seems to be the way it is. There'll be hush, hush, hush. All this rumours or leaks will go on. And then they'll be like, oh, sorry, we didn't try enough, it wasn't acceptable. Once the fact has happened and once the manager's gone, and it's not really fair on Ross. I know Ross, there's been a lot of talk on Twitter, he'll probably end up back in punditry duty and things like that. And for me, he's not a bad SPFL Premiership manager, but it's clearly been the wrong fit. And 10 weeks later, he's now back looking for another role.
Well, that's the thing. Jack Ross has now been sacked twice in the last 8 months. And as the headline there says, where does Jack Ross go from here? Because I don't think he'll get another Premiership job for quite a while.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now that's happened twice in such quick succession. I know there's a lot of talk of how he exited Hibs, considering the result over Rangers in the semi-final, etc. But 2 sackings in such quick succession, would he have to go back down to England? Obviously, he's been at Sunderland. It's one of those, or could he take a bit of time off? Because it can't be, it's humiliating for him as well, because not just us talking about him, everyone's talking about him. And when the chairman's coming out with statements such as yesterday, which I don't think he needed to say some of the things he said in the statement, it's just adding fuel to the fire, really. And probably just wants to curl away and stay at the limelight for a bit, because any manager, like as an Aberdeen fan, I always remember Mark McGee for a certain result, and that'll be the same as Dundee United fans and Scottish football. You say Jack Ross, remember absolute dreadful results for Dundee United getting thrashed, conceding all these goals. So once you build up that reputation as a manager, it's probably hard to get rid of.
Have you got any sympathy for Jack Ross, or is it just a case of maybe, I don't know, wrong time, wrong place, or do you think that the players have really let him, and not just him, down, but the fans as well?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I touched on there about the fact that from what I've seen on Twitter, I think they've got record season ticket holders and the fans at the start of the season with Conference League football, playoffs, etc. A good season last season. They was buying into what was going on, and then appoint Ross in the summer, and you think, okay, that could be an alright appointment. And then I've got a wee bit of sympathy for Ross, but at the end of the day, football and football management can be a brutal, I guess, industry. And when you're signing up to that, as I think Stephen Glass said when he got sacked by Aberdeen, you don't make much friends being football manager, because even if you do well or do crap, there's got to be a point that you've got to be dismissed. And unfortunately for Ross, it was 10 weeks in. Do you, as a Hearts fan and a Scottish football fan, do you have sympathy for him? Because I don't think I do. I do in a sense that I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, but it's kind of been brought on a wee bit himself as well, because it's his team.
It's never nice to see a manager sacked, although in some instances it is as a Hearts fan. But I do have a little sympathy for him because he's only had 10 weeks. It's not a lot of time, but it is a results-driven business. And as Mark Alden says, results have been horrendous. But I do feel, and you actually mentioned his name a minute ago, Nicky Clark. I've noticed that he's come out and said when St John's came in for him, it's nice to feel wanted. I mean, does that just sum up how poor United were, that the fact that Nicky Clark has basically said, I didn't really feel wanted at United?
Yeah, I was quite shocked. I've seen that as well. And I know they've got Stephen Fletcher and Tony Watt and some other players that can also play or fill in at that position. But Nicky Clark, he scored his actual goal record from starts. It's like a goal every second game. I think he was top scorer for United last season. So to then him to come out and say that, and that's what, as a journalist, I'm intrigued. I always love to hear what you say happens once players leave, like when Considine left Aberdeen, moved to St Johnstone. You hear how things actually really turned out from their view. And I'd love to hear from someone like Nicky Clark, now he's left in United, what was actually going on, because to suddenly be kind of frozen out and not be in the picture after what he done last season, and then obviously that comment's a slight dig at United for being wanted. It's one that I guess but it's. I think he'll be glad just to get away from it. In my opinion, Sir Johnson about a good player there, so it suits both parties in a sense, because if he's not in the plans at United, we say that now. Who's got to say that the next manager at United might have wanted Nicky Clark? It's a bit of a knee-jerk thing to get rid of him, but maybe he was pushing for that move as well.
Well, that takes us on to the question that's been highlighted here. Who now replaces Jack Ross? I mean, there are managers out there that might want the job, but who now? You know, as Status Mind says, our Owen Coyle or Duncan Ferguson genuine candidates for the Dundee United job. What do you reckon?
I'd say so. I think I seen something yesterday that Owen Coyle was open to. No, not Owen Coyle. Duncan Ferguson was open to taking the job, and Owen Coyle, he's managed in England at in Premier League before in Championship, and doing a fairly good job at Queen's Park with the project they've got there. So I'd see them as both viable candidates. I don't know. It's been what 5 managers in the last 6 years, something at Dundee United, or maybe more. It's been a really big. And then guys like Tam Court, I think it's been a lot of. You've had Mickey Mellon. Like, some of the managers have kind of came out the blue, so I wouldn't put it past that sort of thing to happen as well. I'd love to see Duncan Ferguson in Scottish football. He has 6 managers in 6 years. 4 of those managers are in charge of fewer than 50 games. And that says it all, and says that, in my mind, there's something bigger and something deep down ingrained in the psychology of something at training ground at Tannadice or whatever that is clearly not working. Because why would Tam Courts, for the start, want to even make that move to empty? I think it was Honved, was it? Budapest Honved?
Yeah.
You think to yourself, there's something clearly up, and maybe we'll get that answer from Jack Ross if he does come back on like Sports Scene or in the media, what might have been going on, because that stat is pretty damning. And not to avoid the question of who's got to take over, I've seen Aberdeen fans joking, say, Stephen Glass, he's still staying in the area, but I honestly think, not to avoid the question, it could be anyone. I've seen some of the candidates mentioned, but it's a tough one. I personally would love to see Duncan Ferguson Scottish football, but then United's a rival for Aberdeen, so it does can be a bit funny as well seeing them struggle. What would you say?
You wouldn't want to mess with Duncan Ferguson or headbutt you.
Oh, I know. It's like Dick Campbell.
To be honest, I was actually sitting there yesterday thinking, I bet Tam Courts is just sitting there in Hungary laughing his head off at that. I mean, honestly, I think you're right. There must be a reason why he's left, and the amount of managers they've lost recently. Again, I saw something on Twitter earlier, or it might have been one of our chats as well. Somebody mentioned Mark McGee. Would he go United?
Oh, he'd certainly want to keep the score less than 9 anyway. So, but I don't think he'd be a viable candidate. It's one of those that United are. You look at even forgot to mention Middleton, a player that's been brought in over the summer, scored that goal against AZ Alkmaar. United on paper, whoever's coming in, they've got a decent enough squad, a squad that can easily, I'm not saying easily, but potential to challenge for that top 6 position, or at least be in thereabouts. So I think it's an attractive prospect for several people that would be Thompson. Obviously, every time there's a vacant managerial role, I think Motherwell one he was talked about, because I don't think he's got a managerial job since leaving Kelty Hearts and taking them to promotion. So he's one of the upcoming managers. But would they take a risk on an upcoming manager? I don't know. They want to have stability. I think that's, at the end of the day, that is what Dundee United need now. All this managers, less than 50 games, etc., etc. You made a good point there, Graham, I think, about the fact that it's hard to actually build something in 10 weeks to get your philosophy through to people. It's not going to happen overnight. So whoever comes in, I think, it's so cliche as it says, this appointment's crucial for Dundee United, because they've made investment in players, and they've got a fan base who clearly is seeking and striving success.
They've obviously got Liam Fox there just now, who's taken interim charge. Do you think that's a job that he might want? And the thing is, you mentioned it earlier as well, the transfer window shuts tomorrow, so there's no time to get a new manager in, to get players in. So, I mean, does Liam Fox take that job?
Well, it could certainly be one of those that, going by Dundee United's statement, going back to that it could be, I think there was hinting the fact that it could be a process and it would take a matter of time. It won't happen overnight, so I think with the process. Well, welcome Dave here. Hi, David.
I was in my bed. Sorry.
That's all right, mate.
Don't worry. We're just speaking about the Dundee United situation and who should replace Jack Ross at the moment.
Is Dave still with us, or is he muted? Or
I'll just continue on what I was saying then.
I keep going.
I think Mr. David is got a
No, I think there's a couple of candidates for that.
Go on, Dave.
Oh, hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
Aye. Oh, sorry. No, I think. Aye, yeah.
Go for it.
Who would you fancy replace Jack Ross, Dave? I've said obviously Kevin Thompson.
Dave's away.
We've lost David. Another manager that's kind of. Oh, you asked me Liam Fox. I think it could end up being one of those that, if he does get a win or two as interim, if they're taking a bit of time to appoint a new manager, as the statement kind of alluded to, Liam Fox could be given that chance. But I don't think they might be tempted to promote him, but I think that would be a gamble. Someone like Michael O'Neill, obviously been dismissed by Stoke the other day. I think he'd be a solid managerial choice. I think if I was a United fan, I'd be thinking Michael O'Neill could be a good appointment, because he was left Stoke after 3 years in midweek, and also Alex Neil's replaced him. And what he done with Northern Ireland in the Euros, I know that's one thing, but what he done with that team, he got the best out of them. So if I was the United board, he's certainly someone I'd be asking and seeing what sort of packet of what his next move's going to be.
I know it's early in the season. I know we can't predict anything yet, but would you be worried for United this season?
I think I wouldn't be worried about I know where they are at the moment in the table, but I think they've got enough. I was going to say characters, but going by what's been going on, I don't know.
Do they really?
Yeah, you think they'd have enough big characters to at least be, because you look how bad the Premiership was last season. Aberdeen and Hibs couldn't buy a win and still ended up avoiding that relegation playoff spot. So I think Dundee United, even if it does turn into a bit of a farce, I think Dundee United shouldn't be too worried. I think they won't be fighting relegation, but they might not. The fans' ambitions of European football again next season might have to be tamed a wee bit if things stay the way it's going currently.
Dave, are you back with us? Have we got Dave back with us? I can see his head. He is moving. Dave, are you back? Hello, David, are you here?
We've got a smiling David. It's a State of Scottish exclusive from Mr. David.
It's always a worry when you've got a smiling David, but he doesn't actually say anything, so I don't know if he's actually here or not. Dave, are you with us?
In the meantime, would you be worried if you was a Dundee United fan?
Do you know what? I think I would be. I think it is early in the season, but the fact that they are such a bad run just now, those 4 defeats, I think they've only scored like 1 goal recently, and just the defeats they're getting are really, really poor. And I think tomorrow they play in the Premier Sports Cup. That's tonight, actually. It's a huge game for them. They have got to start winning games, but you spoke about characters. At the moment, I don't think they've got enough of them right now.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. When you look at squads on paper, it's always like, oh, this squad should be doing a lot better. Last season, I said all season with Aberdeen on paper looked a great squad, great depth, and couldn't do it. And that's Dundee United this season. So far, I know it's still very early into the season. They could make a really good appointment, and they could come in, such as Michael O'Neill. He's my man now. I'll use him as my example because I've now said it rather than being hesitant. Say he comes in and he's taken over that same group of players. You just never know. He could get the best of them because we're still only the first month into the season. There's a long way to go till May and a lot of ups and downs for every team, I assume, because so far this season, it's been very few teams that I've seen a lot of consistency from. I think anyone, or maybe apart from Celtic, anyone can beat anyone on any given day.
Yeah, 100%. So interesting times at Dundee United, and I cannot wait till they appoint Craig Levine with Michael Stewart as assistant. That would be fantastic. So let's move on to your club, Aberdeen, who started the season very well. Although last night in the Premier Sports Cup, they were taking it to extra time against Annan. Robbie, were you slightly worried at any point last night?
Yeah, I was indeed. When I seen it was 0-0, I was working, so I was only relying on Sports Sound updates. But when I seen it was 0-0 at half time and updates coming through and Annan had hit the post, I'm thinking they topped the Premier Sports Cup League group, and you're thinking to yourself, they've done that, but they're second bottom in League Two. Surely they're not going to be that much of a threat. Aberdeen's just off the back of a 5-0 result of Livingston. You're thinking, full strength type team for Aberdeen. You're thinking, it should be an easy enough night. At half time, it's 0-0. They've hit the post. I'm thinking, this is not going to be easy. But then we scored. I'm like, okay, we can build on that. 10 minutes to go. A man from Harry Potter scores. Swingle, I think his name was. And then, yet again, Aberdeen conceded from set pieces, which is a worry. That was probably my biggest worry when I seen that. And then with 7 minutes to go, it's one of these things that anything's possible against a lower league side. You could be throwing everything at it to get a win before you're forced to extra time, and then they score. So I was really nervous, to be honest. I was trying to work, but I was biting my nails at the same time, thinking, oh dear, I've seen it all before with Aberdeen. We're losing to teams of lower divisions, but obviously goes to extra time, and eventually that class of fitness and being a Premiership outfit pays off. But it certainly didn't make it easy for themselves, and I don't think anyone expected that tie to be the one that would go all the way to what it did.
I believe we have David back with us. Dave, are you with us?
Evening, gents. I hope you're well.
Hey, here we go. Fantastic. Right, David's now with us.
I think your headphones helped. I think your headphones helped.
Excellent. Right, we'll get back to everything in a second, but because David's with us and we didn't get a chance to hear about his Jack Ross thing, Dave, we have to ask you about Jack Ross. Firstly, was it a surprise that he was sacked after only 10 weeks? And secondly, who replaces him now?
First and foremost, I'm not surprised whatsoever by the decision. I didn't actually share it in the group chat, but Alan Temple, the Courier, I think he deserves a good shout out here because he had a really good article on the Courier today. It was online, and I think he did a really good article with regards to the timelines and everything that surrounded the impending departure of Jack Ross in the end. And obviously on Sunday afternoon, I think it was already in Mark Ogden, the chairman's mind that Jack Ross was going, but obviously with these things it needs conundrums, it needs conclusions, and that's exactly what the United board did. And come conversations they had, I went to the Zoom meeting on Monday afternoon, and then obviously Tuesday morning Jack Ross was on his way from northeast of England, Sutherland area probably, to St Andrews to be told he's getting shown his P45, and I mean, you'll get an outstanding payday as a result of that, which obviously will not be made external, obviously, as a result of lawyers and all that getting involved. But irrespective, it's not went well for Jack Ross. But I don't know what you guys have been speaking about, but obviously a lot of Dundee United fans have been social media saying it's all down to players, nothing to do with Jack Ross. And then Liam Fox immediately comes out in the media yesterday and says, it's not, first and foremost, I'll put this slam down and calm it down, that the players didn't play for Jack, which suggests that there was something clear hysterical in the water, and obviously there was definitely an identity missing with either Jack Ross not getting his message across to United players, or the other vice versa, where the players weren't taking Jack's message on. And obviously when you're dropping two experienced players like Tony Watt and Charlie Mulgrew early doors, that kind of tells you that there's a passage and a story that's never going to materialise in the best way possible.
I was saying to Robbie earlier that Jack Ross has now been sacked twice in the last 8 months. I mean, where does Jack Ross go from here? Because I don't think he'll be getting a Premiership job anytime soon.
Well, that's a big question. I mean, obviously, Jack Ross, when you look at him, he had a stellar management career to begin with. Obviously, Alloa, that was his good. That was his roots into management. Obviously, Mike Mulroney always been renowned for taking in chairman at starting in the management career. Jim Goodwin and Jack Ross spitting, not Jim Goodwin and Paul Hartley, sorry, springs to mind in that regard. And then obviously St Mirren, he rescued them and resurrected them to an extent because obviously they were in danger of getting relegated to the third tier of Scottish football. They were bottom of the championship at that specific moment in time, and Jack Ross did a superb job up in Paisley. And then you got the job to Sunderland. And I think I made a point to yourself, Graham, that I didn't think it was the right appointment for Jack Ross. Not in all fairness, obviously he was a man with high stock at that time because obviously Ipswich were for him, and as for Sunderland. But at the same time as well, I reckon he should have stayed at St Mirren, made a go at the Premiership, try to get into that top six and gain a lot more impressive credibility within football circles or football management circles. Hibs, now, I'd argue that Hibs was a successful job. Yes, he got Hibs to last stage of the competitions. Thoroughly acknowledge that, but at the same token as well, the fact that they get to the semi-finals and then, as we call it, Hibs tells us everything we need to know about Jack Ross's tenure at Easter Road. And then Dundee United, well, that's calamitous. There's no other word to describe it.
Before we leave United and get back to Aberdeen, Dave, Robbie has touted Michael O'Neill for the job. Who are you thinking is going to get that job now?
Yeah, well, I was trying to give you 100 words when I had that echo problem about 10, 15 minutes ago. But Michael O'Neill is definitely one of them. Robbie mentioned something about Kevin Thompson, I heard. And he'd be a very good appointment for Dundee United. And obviously, he's a man that's not done a lot in football management circles, in all honesty, because obviously he's been in the fourth tier with Celtic Hearts. But at the same time as well, I think it'd be a good opportunity for him. I don't think for 1 minute it'd be a good stepping stone in terms of him getting the Rangers job. I don't think that'd be mentality for both parties for 1 minute. But at the same time as well, I think whoever they appoint will have their own boundaries to an extent. I mean, this is United's fifth manager in 2 years, and it suggests to me that it's not all about the managers. I think Tony Askar needs to be held accountable in this specific situation as well, because even Robbie Nielsen, a good manager, at that point in time went to Hearts. Hearts were in a very precarious position at that moment in time. Obviously, Jack Ross, he got sacked, so that's maybe a foregone conclusion with regards to how that deteriorated and how that relationship shuffled in a short space of time. Mickey Mellon went to see you later after a year, despite the fact that he had a membership at Andrews Golf Club, as did Tam Courts. Tam Courts obviously went to Hungary after a year, and Chris Docherty has been in the media saying we don't like the Scottish game, we're not a big fan in terms of how the philosophy of the Scottish game is implemented, which tells me that there's something wrong at Dundee United.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get back to Robbie's team, because I know he's chomping at the bit to get in here. Robbie, are you surprised at how strong a team Jim Goodwin played last night, or is that just a case of he wants to win this tournament?
Yeah, I think so far under his tenure, he's been all about consistency. He really doesn't like, unless it's forced upon him with injuries, he likes a settled team. And seeing the fact that he didn't even change the goalkeeper with Joe Lewis coming in or anything, and the fact that Miovski leading the line, there was only 2 changes, and it was predictable changes, Clarkson and Hayes, because they're playing on AstroTurf. And I thought to myself, when I seen that team, I was like, I'm actually surprised it's a strong team, but for playing on a narrow AstroTurf pitch, there was a lot of wingers. And from people that was at the game, they've been saying that it actually didn't suit a game for playing a lot of wingers, because kind of got stifled out the game in a sense. And I think Goodwin noticed that at half time, and he took Shaden Morris off and he took Shaden Morris and Kennedy off and put Hayes on, and I think he changed the shape a wee bit, and I think that's when they did get their goal and started coming a wee bit into the game. But as Goodwin said in his post-match, he was really surprised, but not in a patronising way, about their fitness levels for a part-time League Two club. And as I said before Dave came on, you shouldn't really be surprised the fact that they topped the Premier Sports Cup League group, but the game ended up in extra time. It just shows that maybe that gap on the day is not as big as we think between these sides, because Aberdeen, even in pre-season, was only 2-0 against Bucky Thistle. That's pre-season, but playing against these sides is never easy. It's not a rout like some people was expecting, especially after scoring 5 against Livingston with basically the same team.
I think, sorry, can I just elaborate on what Robbie said? I just think the Premier Sports Cup offers a different kettle of fish altogether to the league. I mean, Annan Athletic have been precarious in league terms so far. They haven't had the best start to the season. But this was a one-off tie for Annan to an extent last night. This was a tie with no pressure attached to them whatsoever. And I mean, Annan had a very, very good Premier Sports Cup there. But at the same time as well, this was a lucrative tie for Annan Athletic Football Club. And I've made a point in a programme piece that I'm going to be doing for Peterhead on Saturday, so shout out to Colin Byers if you're listening in. But we shouted there. But yeah, obviously, I made the point that about that Aberdeen game last night, and I made the point that teams in the third and fourth tier of Scottish football, they're predominantly full time, but at the same time as well, the quality, the professionalism, the standard of teams, the quality of teams can't be undermined, and there's some fantastic teams in there. And Annan showed that last night, and they did in the Premier Sports Cup, and we've seen in the Premier Sports Cup as well, where like St Mirren aren't qualifying and St Johnstone aren't qualifying. All sides that are Premiership credibility about them, but they're not qualifying, which tells you everything you need to know. And I've seen Annan in the flesh, but it was last season, and I was very impressed with Annan. And had it not been for a resurgent FC, well, now they're called FC Edinburgh, they'd have been a League One side, sorry.
I was going to say, Dave, that Aberdeen are through, and that'll really please Jim Goodwin, but all the credit last night has to go to Annan for taking a very, very strong Aberdeen side all the way to extra time. Yeah,
well, I'm glad Shooters and all of them are going out on Twitter and saying the travelling support didn't merit the performance, and that's all fine and well. But ultimately, if you were to ask Jim Goodwin the question publicly, all Jim Goodwin would be telling you is we're through the next round. That's all you can ask for. I mean, obviously there was a fantastic travelling support coming through from Aberdeen yesterday. That's great, but obviously they didn't get the performance to match. And that was incredibly disappointing. But at the same time as well, when you look at it, it was about getting through, and that's all that mattered from an Aberdeen persuasion. And the disappointing aspect from an Aberdeen point of view is the fact they played a strong team. That's arguably a starting 11 you've played a Saturday with the exclusion of Atapush Buddy Hayes, probably. So, yeah, that's a little bit disappointing. But adding at Gallbank is always a tough aspect for whoever goes up there. I mean, Ayr, I'll give you Ayr as an example. I know they're a championship side, but Ayr are flying high at the top of the championship right now. But they even struggle at the Gallbank. So it tells you everything you need to know about how tough these places are. I covered Aberdeen at Peterhead at Premier Sports Cup in July. And Aberdeen, yeah, they were dominant. Yeah, they were in the front foot. But a sensational performance from Jack Human. A sensational performance from Jack Human made sure it wasn't a 6-7-0 Aberdeen. And that's how compact these League One and League Two sides are.
Another team that is through from last night, Robbie, are Rangers. They won comfortably in the end against Queen of the South by 3-1, but they were only 1-0 down and Lee Connolly equalised. They gave a bit of a scare to Rangers last night.
Yeah, definitely. I seen the interview with Lee Connolly on Queen of South TV. He's a big Celtic fan, and he was like, he didn't know where to look. But looking at that Rangers side, but it was a really youthful, and apart from Ryan Jack and Alan McGregor, it was a very inexperienced side. But I know Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, they've got a lot of competitions this season to juggle, and at Rangers, you've surely got a good youth system. But when I seen that it was 1-1, I'm just like, well, Queens maybe could swing a shot, but at the end of the day, Rangers' class came through in the end, and it did seem, going by the radio, I didn't see the game, that Rangers spurred a few more chances and could have maybe won more comfortably. But shout out from that game, before we go and ask me more questions, to the Queen of South fans, because they almost filled the away section at Ibrox, and not many teams go to Ibrox and do that out with the big five, really.
It's a very good point. Dave, talking about Rangers, they did rest a lot of players yesterday, but one player who did come in and he scored 2 goals for them last night, was Scott Arfield. He's a very influential player for the Rangers team.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think it was right call for Van Bronckhorst not to play a full-strength side last night, because there's much better and bigger priorities, more due respect for Rangers moving forward. Glasgow Derby is Saturday, and then obviously the Champions League to follow afterwards. So I think there's a lot more priorities, and Premier Sports Cup success would be nice for Rangers, because obviously it's success, but there's bigger fish in the sea to fry. So from that point of view, I can understand why Van Bronckhorst made the changes he made. Scott Arfield played a pivotal part last night. Obviously, had 2 goals, and it was a captain's-like performance. Maybe it was a makeshift side, so to speak, but yeah, Scott Arfield put in a captain's-like performance, led the line very well, showed professionalism, 2 goals, and was all over the park and it covered every blade of grass. It was absolutely fantastic. But what I must say as well, Graham, I thought was a very valiant effort from Queen of the South, because as Robbie alluded to with the travelling support, and alongside that, I thought they were compact and resolute in the park and gave Rangers a lot of questions to answer. And it could have been very easy for damage limitation after Rangers scored that opener, but fair play to Roy Gibson's side, because they scored that level through Connolly. And yeah, they maybe ran out of steam in the end, but it was still a very valiant effort, and Queens could take a lot of credit out of that performance.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie, when it comes to Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, whoever, when you play these kind of teams, especially at home, you're a hiding to nothing. You're expected to win. So will it be more pleasing for Van Bronckhorst last night? They've got through the game without any injuries, and they've managed to give fringe players a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when Robbie Ure, I think his name is, scored and got man of the match on his first Rangers start. Things like that has got to be promising, because Rangers, there's no doubt about it. I know they still could make 1 or 2 more acquisitions in the next 24 hours, but they, as Dave mentions, they've got 4 competitions they're in, and they'll be playing a lot of football before the World Cup. They don't want to rely on these young players, but it'll be reassuring to Gio Van Bronckhorst that these young players can impress and put themselves in his thoughts. And I think seeing the signings he's made, sometimes signings take a bit of time to hit the ground running. They've got players like Malik Tillman and Ravi Matondo. I did hear folks saying Matondo last night, his delivery needs to be a bit better, but that's something he can work on. And then Fashion Sakala, he's kind of came back from out in the cold, because yesterday, and he got a goal, I think. So, I don't think he got a goal, he provided a goal. So things like that, it'll be positive for Rangers fans to see that there is Finch players knocking on the door, and say they get, no disrespect to Partick Thistle in the next round of the Premier Sports Cup, you might do similar with having to juggle different competitions.
I want to look at the games tonight, but before we do, 2 other teams that made the draw tonight is Dundee, who comfortably beat Falkirk by 3-0, and Partick beat Arbroath by 1-0. Dave, a huge result for Dundee. Maybe not unexpected. Falkirk were down to 10 men, but even still, a fantastic result for Gary Bowyer's side last night.
Yeah, I think they did a response after Friday. That's exactly what they got. It was a very good performance from Dundee. Well worth if their 2-0 result that they got. So, yeah, full credit to Gary Bowyer and his team. Dundee have started the season pleasantly well. Maybe a few disappointing results, such as 2 in a row, John at Morton, and obviously could be better on Friday. But I think it shows the quality of the championship this season, where we're not just speaking about one specific team. Dundee are heavy favourites to go win the league. Something that Gary Boyer's tried to brush under the carpet, I think, going by what he's saying in the media. But when you look at Dundee, I mean, they've got a lot of quality, but I still think they need to add a few more. There's word about a few more coming in, but positions and what forth is still to be disclosed. But Boyer is wanting the right calibre of player. And if you were to ask me, I think they need a centre half, because Sweeney, he's got an aggressive side to his game, which is all fine and well. I appreciate that, because it's a component of the game that I like to play in as well. But you get the feeling that Sweeney let his team down massively on Friday, considering being captain of the football club. Maybe a midfielder could be within a shout as well. I did think about a striker, but I speak to a Dundee fan fairly regularly, and she was telling me that they probably are sorted up front in terms of the way they play. So I could probably leave that bit out, but I think there's 2 players short of where they want to be, Dundee, at this precise moment in time. So I'll make that a point. Falkirk, it was a good accountability test for them last night. Obviously, got up to Dundee, a championship side, and they test themselves very, very well. John McGonagall will give a little bit difficult fish under John McGonagall this year, and it'll be very, very good for that point of view. Partick beat Arbroath. Now Partick deserved to go win the game last night. There's no whole question about that. Obviously, Partick are in a really good place. They took a bit of a while to get a swing in their step, but Ian McCall's finally getting them gelling. Because just remember, they signed 7 or 8 new players, and it takes them a bit of time to get used to each other and all that. They signed very, very well. Now, I'm from Aberdeen, as is Robbie, of course. They obviously signed Harry Milne from Cove, and I'm a big advocate of the way Harry Milne plays his game. He's a very good left back. He'll get forward all the time. His attitude's first class, and he shouldn't really be in the Championship in all honesty. But I think he's doing the long-term project of trying to get Partick up to the Premiership, which I can acknowledge and understand why he's going for it that way. But they've also got a couple of other good acquisitions in there as well. So Partick are in a good position, but Arbroath are a different proximity altogether from what we faced last season, because he had signed Scott Allen. That's a very good piece of business for Dick Campbell's side, but at the same time as well, there's rumours, I mean it vehemently, rumours that Nicky Lowe's leaving. There's also obviously Loswick Donnelly, who was a squad player at best. Kieran Shanks is signing him from every locals. He hasn't hit the ground running yet. But they've kept their good nucleus, but at the same time, they've added 7 or 8 players above, and it takes a bit of adjustment to get used to. But they need reaction and fast, and I think the next 2 Saturdays are crucial for Arbroath, because they've got Partick this Saturday at Gayfield, then they've got Raith Rovers at Gayfield, and I think the Raith Rovers game will give us a big indication of where Arbroath are at just now.
We've got about 90 minutes left on the show. It's been a busy one as always. Let's look at the game from tonight, and we'll start with the champions Celtic, who are at Ross County, and they've made 9 changes. Its first starts for Benji Siegrist, Bernabe and Aaron Moy. Celtic line up with Siegrist, Ralston, Welsh, Jens, Bernabe, McGregor, Moy, Turnbull, Abada, Maeda and Giacomakis. On the bench, they've got Scott Bain, they've got Starfelt, Kyogo, Han Zabovin, I can't even pronounce that name, the new boy they've signed. McCarthy. I'll just say Siad, that's more sense. They've also got McCarthy, Jota, Hatate, Forrest and Juranovic. A very strong bench, and let's be honest, Robbie, it's no surprise to see Postecoglou making as many changes as that.
No, absolutely not. Seeing 9 changes and then hearing that team on paper, because I was going to say, it's a potential banana skin, because we all seen last season, was it, when Celtic, I think it was Ralston, it came up last minute with a goal for Celtic up in Dingwall. So this time I was like, it could be a banana skin, but when you can make 9 changes and that team doesn't sound too out of place at all. You've got Giacomakis, Maeda, even Aaron Moy. I think I've seen an Australian journalist on Twitter saying that he doesn't understand why Celtic fans have written him off as not being that influential to the team as a summer signing. But I think he will be. And just like Rangers, Celtic need to use the squad. And they've clearly got a lot of squad depth, considering they've got rid of and offloaded quite a few fringe players, and that bench and squad is still very strong. And we all know Benji Siegrist, so Dave will know better than us, probably, with being and seeing Dundee and Dundee United. Benji Siegrist is a top goalkeeper for this level, so to just move to Celtic and sit on the bench, it's great that he is getting his opportunity now in the cup game, and I'm sure he'll probably pull off some magnificent saves like he done all season last season.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, Robbie talks about it there. The changes Celtic have made, 9 changes, and they still look a very, very strong side, even with those changes.
I can understand why Postecoglou's made the changes that he has, primarily in a tactical point of view, because Malky Mackay probably spent Saturday to tonight probably looking at a Celtic way in terms of the way Celtic usually play, in terms of the usual accustomed start of the 11. So I can understand why Postecoglou's made the amount of changes that he has. And at the same time as well, it gives the players an opportunity to push themselves at the Postecoglou's thinking. Now, obviously, I don't think the players that are in contention tonight will play anywhere near the level of the games they will in the Champions League. I think it's a good opportunity for them, because obviously Celtic will need to use their squad massively in the coming weeks and months where the league and Champions League involved. And I mean, I think Celtic can qualify at the Champions League group. I've been vehement in that opinion. But at the same time as well, I think Celtic can be formidable in the league again. So I can understand why Postecoglou's made the level of changes that he has. And just remember, Ross County is a fortress up at Dingwall. I mean, as Robbie touched upon, he needed Ralston to go and Glasgow win last season, and they needed a 82nd minute winner from Jens this season to go and win the game at Dingwall before Celtic went and killed the game off. And Celtic's never had it easy up in Dingwall in their first club. Right, it'll be the same. Ross County will be keen to how we create the run of pressure on the game, and they'll be keen to create a wee sting in the tail.
Robbie, Ross County have had a difficult time this season so far. You know, they hadn't really won the first few games, and they got that win last week against Kilmarnock. Do you think this is a game that Malky Mackay can just think, do you know what, it's Celtic, we have to have a go at them and just see what happens? Do you think they've got a chance tonight against Celtic, even with that amount of changes Celtic have made?
Yeah, absolutely. As Dave says, up in Dingwall's a fortress, and just anything's possible. I think Malky Mackay is a astute manager. I think he's had a good manager, and we all know it's past, but just what he done with that team last season, there's been a wee bit of turnover over the players at County this season as well. So yeah, they made a poor start to the season, but it's got to take time to gel. I haven't seen the lineup for tonight yet, but if they've got such full strength, then there's no reason why they can't spring a shock, because that's what the cup's all about. We haven't really seen too many major shocks so far, but you just never know. It's happened before. Celtic knocked out in the early stage of the cup. Could it be?
Just me and you, Graham.
Just me and you. So,
no, I'll elaborate what Robbie said there, because I just wanted to make a point in Ross County myself, and I seen him in the flesh up at Bucky, the Premier Sports Cup at the start of the season, and I wasn't impressed by Ross County at all. I mean, I looked at Ross County and thought, this is going to be a sign of struggle. I mean, I looked at it in general context. So obviously, they didn't have Regan Charles Cook on that day in question. Sorry, Regan Charles Cook was also on his way to Belgium, south of Charleroi or whatever you call him. So, yeah, but that was Ross County's first competitive game together without. That was Ross County's first game with a new setup, and they got a lot of benefits from that Bucky workout. And they haven't started the season very well, but I could tell, and I was going to make that point after Robbie was finished, that having seen him at Bucky, I did have a feeling they weren't going to be as impressive as they were last year.
As I said earlier, you cover that Celtic side. They do have Said on the bench who could potentially make his debut tonight. I mean, what a game that could be for Said up at Ross County.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's going to be a good opportunity for him. It's an opportunity for him to go and test himself against a good side, stab his own authority in the game. And it'll be a good opportunity for him to go and make a mark for Postecoglou's side. And when you look at the game as a whole, I think it's going to be a fairly intriguing game, because Malky Mackay is a very wound-up guy when at the best of times, and they'll be keen to stamp their own authority in the game. And I'll be honest with you, I probably never got to see Ross County fully, because Dominic Samuel came off the bench and scored a goal that day for Ross County. Dominic Samuel's been a utility player at best, for a squad player at best for County. He's not been as impressive as what people have perceived him to be. I mean, when you look at him, Ross County were a nobody. They weren't impressive by any stretch of imagination in that day in question. And yeah, when you look at it, I think they've improved since then, but I think that's because they've had a bit of time to train and go working things, and they needed to be. So yeah, it's going to be an intriguing one tonight.
Let's look at Hearts against. I'm going to actually ask you before we go. Ross County against Celtic, prediction for tonight?
I fancy Celtic, even although they've made changes. I think they'll win 2-1 tonight.
I'm going to go 3-0 Celtic. Let's go to Tynecastle. Hearts take on Kilmarnock. Hearts have made quite a few changes again. Hearts team is Gordon, Michael Smith, Haring, Shankland, Devlin, Halliday, Forrest, Mackay, Cochrane, Nielsen and Ginnelly. On the bench is Ross Stewart, Mackay-Stephen, Civic, Henderson, Smith, Denham and Tate. I haven't got the Kilmarnock team as yet, but I know that the new signing Christian Doidge is cup-tied for this game, I think. Potentially a tricky game this for Hearts. The injuries to Liam Boyce hasn't really helped either. Do you think this is a chance again for Hearts to progress to the next stage of the Premier Sports Cup?
I think it is, because obviously Kilmarnock are a real high after Saturday. It was a very, very good 2-1 win. But at the same time, Tynecastle's a fortress, and it's an opportunity for Hearts to put in a professional performance. I don't know what you think, Graham. I was expecting a few more changes for Hearts tonight.
To be fair, I was as well. I did think there might be a few more. I thought Mackay-Stephen might have started. Actually, to be honest, I thought Ross Stewart might have started. I'm not a massive fan of him, but I thought he might have rested Craig Gordon for this. So I am a bit surprised. The Kilmarnock team I haven't actually got yet, but I mean,
I think it shows. Sorry, I think it shows how serious Robbie Nielsen's taking the Premier Sports Cup, despite the fact they've got the league, the fact they've got European football coming up as of next week. I think it's a good thing that for Robbie Nielsen to be taking the Premier Sports Cup seriously, because this could easily have been an experiment type of game. This could easily have been a game where you approached it and went, right, we're going to experiment, we're going to play an 18-year-old up front, and we're going to play players that haven't played or players that are sitting on the bench. It'd been very easy for Robbie Nielsen to do that. So I think full fair credit to Robbie for putting it the team he has tonight.
100%. I'm going to get your prediction for Hearts against Kilmarnock.
Hearts 2-0.
Robbie, Hearts Kilmarnock, what's your thoughts on tonight's game?
Yeah, I think Hearts. Yeah, again, you have to look at third place is going to be the best Hearts get. Let's face it. So face for teams like Hearts, Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hibs is imperative. So as I think I just heard Dave say, they've got to go with the strongest team. I know they've got a lot of injuries. I think it's 5 or 6 key players. That was 3 of them with major doubts and few the minor doubts for tonight. And I think Hearts got to go for it. And I think they will beat Kilmarnock. I'm going to go 3-1 at Tynecastle. They're usually pretty solid at home, and I think even the fringe players at Hearts should be enough to beat Kilmarnock. No disrespect to Kilmarnock and my old pal Derek McInnes, but just have a hunch that Hearts are going to have a good season. I seen what you said in the chat earlier about you was worried about the recruitment, Graham, but I've just got a feeling I like what Robbie Nielsen's building at Hearts now, considering what he's done, taking them from watching them in the Championship 2 seasons ago to what they've done in the last year or so. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, 100%. I think we do need a few more signings. I think we need at least a couple of strikers with Boyce being out, but we are in a good place just now, and I'm going to go 6-0 Hearts tonight. No, I'm not. I'm going to go 2-1.
Ambitious.
2-1 I know. I'm going to go 2-1 Hearts. I'm not going to go that far. Let's look at Livingston against Dundee United. I mean, we talk about what a massive game this is for United, but Dave, it's a big game for Livingston as well, a chance to progress in the Cup.
It's going to be an interesting one for Livingston because Jack Fitzwater isn't playing tonight. Not because of Saturday, I may add, just for clarification. It's because he picked up 2 bookings. Yeah, he picked up 2 bookings in the Premier Sports Cup. That's what it was. So he's not playing tonight. He's on to Tam O'Brien, who can't seem to get a game of football just now due to the suspensions that's going his way. Yeah, it's a big game for both sides, but more for Livingston because they need a reaction fast after Saturday's 5-0 mauling by Aberdeen. We could call it a mauling because once Fitzwater gets sent off, it was like the water collided across the sea. It was calamitous for Martindale's side. And yeah, when you look at it, obviously they've been renowned for being compact, being resolute, being a hard-working, battling team in midfield, and then find your new boys. Your new boys will have the physicality. Aberdeen got everything right on Saturday, and that's what merited the 5-0 win in the end. And it was a very deserved win, in the manner in which they got the win was deserved by Jim Goodwood's side as well. So that was all very well for Aberdeen, but it's a big game this for Livingston tonight, and the biggest for the United side. And I've got 4 big questions for Livingston tonight. Is character there? Is desire there? Is playing for coaches there? Because that's the main question. And finally, is pride playing for the club there? 4 big questions that have to be answered tonight for me.
Robbie, when you've just been hammered 9-0 off the champions, a game at Livingston is probably not the one place you want to go.
No, absolutely not. Going to Almond Vale, it's never an easy, like Ross County, going to these places, it's never easy for sides in Martindale. As David touched on there, the Livingston sides are usually known for being well organised, compact. First game of the season against Rangers was a perfect example. In guys like Joe Newbley who will chase and play off the shoulder. But what, because the fact it's deadline day tomorrow, the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, but Xander Clark still hasn't got a club, and Dundee United, a lot of the problems, not all of it, because you can't blame it all on goalkeepers, but some of the scorelines and problems has happened because they haven't had a competent goalkeeper, and they've changed it. Now got Eriksson in goals. Birighitti is not even on the bench tonight looking at it. But I think things like that, the fact that maybe it was a Clark side and he was holding out, but if it was about the matter of money, then surely Dundee United are now regretting not just offering what Clark had wanted, because we spoke about Mulgrew and Watt being out under Ross. They're straight back in the side tonight. Have they got a point to prove? And I think I spoke about saying you hope these experienced players had character earlier, and you wasn't too sure. I would like this tonight is got to be the case of have they got it? Away to Livingston, it's a potential one of those that two teams that are pretty similar matched from last season as well, built the course. So it's got to be a close one. I think sometimes teams have that. I'm saying new manager bounce. They haven't got the new manager in yet, but point to prove. And I think Dundee United will answer those 4 questions in a sense. I think it'll be a tight game, but I think they'll edge it 2-1 against Livy tonight. I've just got a hunch that they'll stop the rot, because surely they've got to do it at some point. And on paper, looking at that side, it's a strong side they've got out tonight.
Dave, are you going for Livingston one or United one?
Okay, before I answer your question, I don't know if you've seen the Ross County side for tonight, but I think they aren't taking it seriously. I'll give you the lineup. Eastwood, Johnson, Watson, Iakoviti, Purrington, Waturi, Tilson, Harmon, Sims, Dominic Samuel and Jordan White now are thoroughly acknowledging that obviously Calgary and Baldwin suspended, but there's a lot of players that usually would be started that are on the bench tonight, so I don't think Marky Mackay's taking this too seriously tonight.
That's a bit of a surprise that they've gone quite weak. I'm going to go prediction. I think Livingston will win this. I think they'll win it by 2-0. Dave?
2-1 Livingston.
And Robbie, you reckon United might just sneak this one?
I think they'll sneak it 2-1. Just I've very slandered United earlier, and I feel they'll have point to prove. Any potential managers looking in, they'll want a good season, because footballers, you don't want to be losing every week. So surely looking at this team with like the Hearts, Watt, guys of that, Watt, whose quote and tweet has came back to haunt him, that the reason he wanted to beat United, but he'll be wanting to prove the doubters wrong, and I think he'll bag a brace tonight.
The final game tonight, Dave, Motherwell against Inverness. Motherwell, the Premiership team, but Inverness are a very, very difficult team to beat. What's your thoughts for this one?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game for a part tonight. I mean, Motherwell are a good side. They've obviously been doing well under Hamill. It's a disappointing outcome at the weekend, but I think it's going to be the Motherwell roller coaster, so to speak, where they'll be competitive against your Aberdeens and your sides around about them, or so to speak, around about them. But they'll struggle against your Johnson and Kilmarnocks, and the latter two are sides that a lot of people expected to be within the periphery of the bottom half of the league this year. So. Yeah, it's going to be the Motherwell roller coaster, I think, but it's a good opportunity for Motherwell to reach the quarterfinals, and it's obviously against a good Cali side who haven't got started yet. I think it's a good opportunity for Cali to relinquish their season to the extent where, because I've seen them at Arbroath and they were very, very good opening 20 minutes at Arbroath. They were on the front foot. Daniel Mackay did a very, very good game. They lacked that a Shane Sutherland type. He's been injured since that Arbroath playoff in May, and they lacked that Shane Sutherland type of character that day. And I think they still do, because they're not scoring enough goals at the front end of the park. They're organised, they always are, Cali, but I think they're lacking a few forward players. And if I was Doddsy, I've made a point to somebody else about this. If I was Doddsy, I'd be bringing in a few forward-thinking players just to make sure there's enough strength and depth before January.
Robbie, do you think it's a big game for Stevie Hamill tonight to try and get through to that quarter-final?
Yeah, absolutely, because if you get through to that quarter-final and you get a favourable draw, I know we've said this at the start that Premier Sports Cup's a different beast and there's no favourable draws, but you get through tonight, you're one game away from Hampden, and then you're really proving a point that his appointment is justified, because it did raise a few eyebrows, I guess, when it was Hamill, they didn't look elsewhere. But yeah, looking at the Inverness side, and I agree with Dave, last season we got to the playoffs and watched Inverness a few times on these Friday night games, or even seen them when they played there. And I thought Inverness a great team, have a lot of good, expansive players, but they haven't started the season well at all. In Motherwell, they've gone strong tonight. They've got Van Veen and the likes all playing, so you've got to expect the Premiership team to go through. But Cali, you just never know. Could it be a time for Mackay to step up and cause a shock for Inverness tonight?
He plays like Mackay. He does play like Roy Mackay.
Could it be another Super Cali Go Ballistic? You never know. So that's pretty much all we've got time for tonight. It just remains for me to thank Robbie Henratty and hope we will see you again soon, mate. And also David Smith. Sick note there for coming in late, but never mind, we'll forgive you. The boys will be back here. The boys will be back here on Friday, and they will be offering their transfer window update from tomorrow. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again another time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.